Yeah, there is a child crawling all over us in this one.
We have our little one with us today, and that's so you're going to hear a lot of sounds. Our little toddler with
Sick baby in the corner.
Oh my god.
Lifeless corporate rock. I was going to give you guys. I'll get your opinion on this lifeless corporate rock deal. So tell me first, what do you guys think? What do you think of when you hear corporate rock? What do you think is the definition of corporate rock?
Kiss.
Yeah, but
I know they're independent, but
they are technically
the sound.
Yeah, they have a very crafted sound that's crafted for the masses. But
The Monkees.
they're actually low. Yeah, the Monkees is one. See, when I think corporate rock, I don't necessarily think of someone who's been produced or a corporation has produced them. Like, was it EMI has produced a lot of good bands, and I wouldn't call a lot of that stuff corporate rock. Although I think EMI is a soulless corporation. Mostly, I think it gets to when you start having like boy bands and more pop rock, that you get the real soulless stuff. It's just like, we've done all these focus groups. After 15,000 focus groups, we've devised a plan to create the perfect band. It's not even real, you know?
Yeah, like a lot of boy bands and like girl bands and things like that. It's like it was pieced together. It was actually manufactured.
Yes.
When you think of corporate rock, you think of a corporation, a record company, a producer, somebody who's actually handpicked, crafted these together.
Yeah, corporate. It's incorporated. It's a process. It's made. It's like hiring.
But is NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, etc., is that rock? So are we saying
pop? That's
because
pop.
all pop is corporate to me.
Yeah.
All pop is manufactured. You're not going to get into the pop industry unless you're some kind of corporate person.
Hey, you know what's corporate? This lighting. This is cubicle lighting.
Corporate lighting.
It reminds me of depression and working at the newspaper.
So what were you saying?
Okay, yeah. So they built this thing whole cloth. No one asked for it. What they've done is they've gone out, they've studied the market and said, we're going to put this band together because we think it fits into a spot in the market. And then they just go out and they promote this new band that no one's ever heard about, and they just make it popular out of like nothing.
Okay.
That's
So
what corporate rock is to me.
Could you organically be a corporate rock band?
Yes. And I actually have an answer for this. You know, Rick Rubin, right? With American Records, he had a corporation, but he was also like the master and commander of it. And he would pick guys, he would say, you sound really good together, or you need a bass player. I know a bass player. I'm going to pull him from over here and give him to you. He actually made really good bands.
Mm-hmm.
He made a lot of good bands.
Which were?
You had Danzig. I think Slayer was one. You had a lot of the early like 90s rap came out of Rick Rubin. Oh, and he produced Johnny Cash.
Okay. What were you saying, Eric?
No, I was just wondering if we're pigeonholing it into it had to be like structured by a corporation, or if you could be organically a band coming out of a high school guys that got together, but you sound corporate.
So what is the corporate sound?
Air Supply.
Boston.
Boston?
Boston.
Interesting.
You think Boston is?
I don't think it's bad.
Interestingly-
I don't think it's bad. I like Boston.
Interestingly, I came across this thread that asked the question about corporate rock, and it listed, and number 1 was Boston. That's what came out of everybody's mouth. Number 2, Journey.
Yeah.
Styx, REO Speedwagon, even Van Halen was on there, which is kind of surprising to me. And because I know that's going to really rile a lot of Halen fans, but also Heart, Barracuda in particular, they even listed like songs alongside of them. So there was like a big, huge list of that. And I want to give you the definition according to the Urban Dictionary of what corporate rock is, what somebody has enlisted as corporate rock. Corporate rock is music that fails critically but succeeds commercially. Corporate rock is typically appropriate for all listeners, lacks creativity or invention, and establishes broad appeal as a result of heavy marketing and media saturation. How do you feel about that?
I would wonder how Styx could be corporate rock under that definition.
Because I also got the corporate rock, and it had changed in the ages because it was for bands that played commercially acceptable songs, as in Boston, Foreigner, Journey, and that's why I didn't want to mention it because it had Journey listed in there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't fit the definition that you have.
Yeah. So, like, this whole thread was a bunch of music lovers discussing what it was, what bands they felt like fit into it, okay? And I'd like to read you some of the comments, which I felt was hilarious. One of the things was they defined it as it had to be faceless. Like, you could just interchange whoever, and they're all going to sound the same.
And they'll sound the same.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like you could just throw this person in with this person. Okay, you can throw in, say, Steve Perry in front of Foreigner, and it's just the same. You wouldn't know the difference. You know, he could be that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so Lou Gramm and Steve Perry, they just interchange. Nobody really knows who they are. It's a faceless band, which is, like I said, again, Dynasty, Young, Steve Perry, Lou Gramm. I think we know the difference
So kind
between
of
all
by
of them.
that definition is...
I think it's also a generational thing, too. That's what it is, because these people, they know the idea of them because their parents listen to them, and all of it is a mumbo-jumbo of
This is
mixed
people
songs.
our age. This is how they felt.
You could check their
Our
birthdays
age.
on there.
Mm-hmm. It's people our
They have
age.
it listed.
Somebody mentioned that they felt it was a made up genre, kind of like yacht rock, which technically, I know people
it is a
feel
made-up
like
genre, I mean.
you know
All
that
genres are made up.
exactly. But the people who coined the term yacht rock, the guys who did that, they have a criteria for what fits in the yacht rock genre, so to speak. And that's
We're not
the funny
talking about
thing
yacht rock.
No, but what I'm saying is they use that term, okay? So like grunge rock, that has a specific sound and feel. So whereas with the corporate rock, it gets more broad. It's just a very big, broad term, I think.
I don't think mass appeal is the fair part of it, because Styx does not sound like Journey.
No.
And God, as much as I hate Aerosmith, they don't sound like Rush.
But also, Urban Dictionary, you get the different results for the same.
Yeah.
The same
Well, what I'm
thing.
saying is that was the Urban Dictionary's definition, but this thread of, I mean, it had hundreds of pages of people commenting. It was so massive with this, and that's just the things that they were saying. I thought,
But it's all their bias. I don't like this, therefore it's that.
Pretentious comment time.
bands like Journey and REO came along and added nothing to the forward trajectory of rock music as an art form. Corporate rock, while tuneful and appealing to some, just seemed second generation, uninspired, non-groundbreaking. It felt very Broadway packaged and safe. Not only did this music lack any invention or adventure, but its creators didn't seem the least bit interested in trying anything new or different. Even a band like Boston.
What did he like? What
Okay.
was his favorites?
It doesn't say.
This sounds incredibly elitist.
Bland derivative music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boston.
This is my favorite because somebody asked what.
That
you
guy
know,
probably likes like John Waite and the Babies and
I only listened to the
I
Moody
listened
Blues
to
early
Fish.
albums.
He wrote that while wearing his fedora.
Okay.
I listened to Dream Theater.
there you go.
You know what?
Go to Cambria, bro.
I like the one who is arguing about.
Maybe those are the prog rock.
Well, prog rock was on there as a list, but there was a couple of them that I found interesting when it was arguing what he said is. Hold on, I want to find what it said.
So it seems like corporate rock is just such a broad thing that people pretty much make it up as they go.
If you don't like it, it's corporate rock.
The term
They sold out.
corporate rock is a mass appeal term.
They got
It is.
signed. They're
It's a-
corporate rock.
It's its own thing.
You know, I used to like Journey when they were not corporate.
I used to like
They
Journey.
sold out.
Yeah, is the fact that something becomes popular a reason to dislike it?
When
Well, I
did they
liked
sell
it
out?
Before they were a band, so
Yeah.
before they existed. So
I was into Journey before they were a thing. Before they were Journey.
born.
This is just a bunch of Reddit hipsters, isn't it?
Oh, I'm sure. I wanted to find the one where the guy was saying, "What makes music cool?" Okay, this is what the guy said. So
Nothing. It's all bad.
So here's the thing.
Are
They
we gonna
said
legislate music?
this is what they said.
Yes, we need to.
All right. So basically, Journey, Foreigner, all of those bands, Toto, whatever, they are bands that were uncool. Therefore, they're corporate rock. And they said, well, what makes it, an idea of a band cool? This person said, the idea of cool is a big part of rock and roll. That's actually kind of the point. And The Clash and Buddy Holly and Elvis and Bob Marley are cool. And Styx is not cool. Why? Because a lot of us say so. That's why. It's a feeling, an attitude, an opinion.
Oh, and that's the basis. That
was his basis
of the evidence.
Of evidence.
We feel this way, and we do this. Therefore, that's proof. That's evidence.
So
us cool
makes it fact.
So us cool
because
kids.
Of our opinion.
I am saying I'm cool.
So
say
by that opinion, by that definition,
the person actually typed that.
They made themselves the authority.
They had typed that.
the
in.
Big Bopper was not corporate rock.
Are you sure?
Because he was
40s?
cool.
Are you
Really
sure?
cool.
Yes.
You know, all this is
I'm a boomer on the internet.
get off of my property.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said that. They said, it's just a term. Because one guy was arguing, why are you mad about it? Embrace the term. It's great. It means you're successful. And they said, well, we don't like it. People who enjoy this type of music, and we prefer the term melodic rock. They said, so because the music has a heavier on the melody than it is, say, like a heavy metal music kind of thing. And I could see that. Okay, if you look and you line up Foreigner, Journey, Styx, they are very melodic.
Yeah.
Those are very sing-songy influenced. The guitars are very melodic, and that type of thing. Whereas if you're going to throw in, Skid Row, you don't hear that. Even with Guns N' Roses, it's much more heavily instrumentally guitared than it is maybe vocally. The vocals are very gritty even. So I could say yes to melodic rock, and it doesn't have that negative undertone to it versus corporate rock. The person was arguing we should be happy with the term corporate rock because it just means they're successful. Whereas another person was saying, no, it has negative undertones.
Or how about this? Corporate rock is a term that any of us can categorize on our own of what we think it is.
Well, see, critics
That's basically
will use
what it
that.
is.
Yeah,
The first thing critics throw out is lifeless corporate rock.
It sounds
Faceless
so
corporate
corporate
rock.
and lifeless.
I
It
could-
doesn't appeal to me.
I could see people saying that the Ramones are corporate rock.
Yeah, living in vans and being in complete poverty while you're trying to.
But,
with a guy
but basing it on the sound of, okay, everything sounds the same and they were only doing it to try to get famous. Okay. But I don't see it that way.
The thing is, I hear the difference between Journey and Foreigner.
I think of like corporate rock though too, like modern. And I know I don't listen to a lot of modern rock, but I know people that are considered rock stars. For example, Pink. She's pop to me, but
Yeah,
she's
me too.
considered rock.
Yeah.
That's corporate rock to me because there's nothing like rock about it. Yeah, you have a
Yep.
she has a good voice. She could sing, like she can actually sing.
Yeah.
But she has a more rough tone that could do rock, but she classified as rock. And she sings with guitars, but she's not a rock star. That's corporate rock.
I view her as a vocalist.
Yeah,
Anybody could sing
but
that.
she's classified.
You
like,
could plug in anyone that could sing into what she does, and it would be the same thing.
Exactly.
Because it's pop. It's a pop tone.
It might be a rock, more of a rock influenced tone to the pop, but it's
she's
not.
considered
To
a
me,
rock
you
star.
gotta have. Yes,
Yeah.
I understand. But what I'm saying is, a band is generally what most people think of when they think of rock.
Yeah.
You gotta have players in the band, not just vocal. That's
to me,
it.
that's what I think of when I think like corporate because it feels like it's forced because it's not. We don't have so many like bands nowadays.
Yeah.
We have vocalists put in a position and they're given their band. That's what we see on the radio.
Yeah.
We don't have like
That's
new
corporate.
up and coming.
Yeah, I wish we had bands like Journey, Foreigner, REO Speedwagon. Now, if that's corporate, why can't they bring those back? Because
Yeah.
I'm sick of hearing what they are pumping
We have to
out.
go indie to get stuff.
12-year-old girls, they run the music
Look,
industry.
the people who
Yeah.
were calling this stuff corporate are essentially like boomer elitist ex-hipsters
Yeah,
who, at one point, it was cool to call all that stuff corporate rock.
yeah, which is
And
the 80s.
hindsight is 2020, and you're like, oh wow,
That's a point I wanted to
completely different. Yeah, because there's a generational problem.
That's what I wanted to bring out. So a lot of it, I would say, and I read pages and pages of this. Anyway, so what I was gonna say is, you're right, Nathan. I would say good 80% of the people on there were in the field of, if you're using the term, you're using it negatively. You're saying it because you just plain out don't like music. And there was a good portion of guys on there that were saying, in high school, I didn't like Journey because it was not cool to like Journey. Now I'm listening and I'm like, man, I really love this band and how much I appreciated it and how underrated they were. And all those bands, not just Journey, but Foreigner and Styx and all that. And, I just didn't listen to it because that's what they called it. That was the uncool thing to do. It was the negative, tone to it. So we didn't want to listen to it or be caught listening to it. Or some of them just admitted, yeah, I listened to it. I just didn't tell anybody I listened to it.
All of them
Their
were.
secrets.
All of them were. Everybody
Really?
lied. Because who was buying it?
Exactly.
These are the highest
How is-
grossing bands
Thank you.
in like the history of humanity.
Yeah, I think
I don't listen to
I
that.
never eat
I only
McDonald's.
listen to Dream Theater. And I've never even heard a whole Boston song. They lie.
Yeah, we never
All
eat-
of them lied. They
Yes.
all bought that Boston album.
Yes.
We never eat McDonald's. Like,
I've never
you
eaten
just throw
McDonald's
that
in
trash.
my life.
And you throw it in the trash immediately when you
Yeah.
get home.
Oh, disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. And that's
I'll
the
have
thing
two
is,
cheeseburger meal and a large fry.
yeah. Even like a lot of the hardcore music bands today will cite like Steve Perry as a huge influence. What was the one we were talking about recently? I had read an interview of a guy. He used Steve Perry to audition for, and it's like a heavy band. It's not Slayer, obviously, but it's not Pantera. Somebody was a friend of Steve Perry's, and he took him to like what they call the Big Four, all the super heavy. Yeah. So, but
It's a
all
corporate band.
No.
but all the super
Let's
heavy.
kick out the talent to keep this corporate sound.
And they found out Steve Perry was backstage, and they said they all just turned into like these Supergirl
Fangirls.
fans.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
all
yeah,
over
yeah,
him.
yeah. I
Who
remember,
was it? What band was it?
It was a heavy metal dude.
It was a really heavy guy. He said it was
It was like
hilarious.
Slayer.
Cannibal Corpse.
It was like Slayer or
Basically,
somebody.
it was like Slayer, but yeah, he was like, they all were like fangirling when they found out Steve Perry was backstage because
Oh no! It was Anthrax. wasn't it?
Anthrax.
Oh,
thank
so
you.
it was,
that was a heavy band.
Yes. Yeah, all these heavy guys, they were all just super excited because they love these bands. These are the bands they love. They love Neil Sean. They love these singers. And it's hilarious how many people who've never picked up an instrument can critically, say, these bands put no effort into their music. They contributed nothing to the forward trajectory of rock music, so on and so forth.
So I think the biggest insult in like the pejorative that is corporate rock is that it's derivative, right?
Yeah,
Because that just means it's not original.
exactly.
What exactly is Styx or Journey derived from?
Well, Journey started off prog rock, right? So that's what
Yep.
they were, because they were
Santana.
yes, they come from Santana. So it was heavily instrumental. Neil Sean, Greg Raleigh left Santana, ended up forming Journey.
They don't sound like Santana.
No,
No,
Not
So they're
anymore.
not derivative of Santana.
because Santana took. Well, have you ever listened to any of pre-Perry Journey records?
Not really.
Okay. So, even so, I would say no, they didn't. But they were instrumental. They were definitely very melodic. Santana went heavy into the Latin fusion thing after a while. It was different, much more instrumental.
He was already an expert guitar player.
They were not getting any, they needed to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And Perry himself, I just listened to an interview that he did just recently, and he discussed why he sang so high, so operatic in a lot of those songs is because he was trying to sing over the guitars. And he had to compete because the way Neil Sean plays is very soaring and very, melodic itself. He needed to complement it. He needed to take it somewhere else. And so that's why Journey has that specific sound with Perry on vocals. And Styx, Dennis DeYoung, he's the one who took them out of the stratosphere himself, with all of his ideas and stuff too.
Dennis DeYoung was Styx.
A lot of people would say that.
I think it's funny when you mentioned like the whole audition thing, because I remember when I had audition. So this is for a show, but you get a choice of songs. Almost always there's Journey in the choices of
Yeah.
the songs that you do, and I just thought that was funny. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll pick Journey, but it's not the best known Journey songs. It's always something like I Had Only the Young or whatever.
Mhm.
So I think they're really trying to get ranges of people, and that's why they do that.
Well, they want you to.
Those
They want to hear
bands.
what you can do with a song that's been produced.
Well, I thought it was interesting because a band like Heart, so I feel like maybe that does fit in Heart's later 80s years because they were heavily produced. They were heavily, you will sing this song, you need to go this direction. And it changed dramatically from, not that I don't appreciate 80s, I love it,
Yeah.
but, thinking of the songs they wrote originally, Magic Man, Barracuda, so on and so forth, they're distinctly different from their more 80s sound.
Those are your karaoke songs.
But you know what I'm saying about the 70s Heart changed, and I could see that. So what bands do we think actually fit in the corporate? Well, you mentioned Kiss earlier, which I would agree with, because and the reason I say that isn't because they didn't come together organically, but because of how heavily they market themselves. I mean, it's clearly buy this, buy that. It's the from the makeup.
The marketing and the hype is better than the band itself.
Yeah,
is what I would say.
That makes sense. When you have like a gimmick, like or super gimmicky, like you said, Kiss, that you can't leave that gimmick without completely changing yourself.
Yeah.
And you'd have a bigger fallout from losing your gimmick than actually having pretension.
And they did.
They took on characters, and they've
but
even
they
replaced what they called their characters.
Yeah, but the thing is,
which was much too,
They did do that. They took the makeup off, and they actually had a really good song, and it was not well.
But the retention rates, I mean, it will show because that's what sold to people. And you once you put yourself on that thing, it's like you can't change. It's like a comedian that goes and tries to become a serious actor. It's so hard.
Exactly. They went right back into it.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is they even take on, like I said, their persona. Each person in that band was a character, a persona. And they've replaced it and maintained the same persona character with just a different person, which angered original fans instead of creating saying, okay, well, now we have this and this is their persona. They just took on the persona of the person who left the band. So that to me seems like casting, you know.
But that's the thing, when it comes to music and like a show or whatever, people see the band, that's them, that's who they are. It's not like a separate show or a separate this, because that's what people want. They are sold on that. That's them. That's what they like. They don't like the idea of going off and doing something separate, because if that becomes successful, they're afraid that they're going to stop doing what I love because this is more successful and that's lost. It's dead and it's buried. Yeah. And something I loved is now gone.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And that's corporate. You got to be so careful when you're doing gimmicks because you could get so stuck in it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people try and continue on when they just shouldn't. And so naturally there's a lowering of quality to just continuing. There's no reason for Led Zeppelin to have had as many albums as they did.
Come on, Coda was great.
Yeah. It really suffers when you're like, it's an album full of B tracks with one great song, with one really great
Case
song.
in point, and I know you don't like him, but Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
So they signed this contract to become a corporate rock band.
Ooh, yeah.
And then they said, we don't want to make these albums, but they had to because they were obligated. And so all the albums, well, I mean, it's Pearl Jam. So could it be Pearl Jam or could it just be?
Yeah. And it went from Pearl Jam to Spin the Black Circle.
To
which
just
was
really stupid stuff.
Bad. I don't know, were they trying to make it as bad as possible? Because it was bad. And that's the thing too, is why go on? There's no point. You make your piece of art. If it's a piece of art, let it stand on its own.
So you're saying there's an expiration date?
Yes, there is. Everyone has an expiration date.
But
yes, exactly.
But you can always come back.
What fits into the corporate? Which bands do you feel like absolutely have always fit into
I think the ultimate of corporate music, it's not rock, it's pop, but it would be Taylor Swift. If I could take that and apply it across the board,
you'd be a billionaire.
This is someone who on their own would just be some girl in the South who, graduated high school. She would play guitar at bar mitzvahs.
She probably toss out some kids though, here and there.
Yeah.
She'd probably have a more productive life than she does now.
But it's not rock. Still the same thing. Not rock. We're talking pop. So what happens is, I think what we're coming to the conclusion is that.
Okay, so you want a list of who corporate rock is?
What I'm saying is, what we're coming to we keep coming back around in a circle to pop, and I think that's where we're getting the genre that we feel corporate would be, and we keep talking about these individuals.
Because it's an urban legend, we can't name it. It's the man.
So we keep dancing around back to a pop person.
I know it's a mystery
That's who we
man.
view as being corporate.
It's a mystery man in the woods. Nobody knows.
Take the rock out, and that's just it.
The mystery corporate rock man.
So do you prefer the term melodic rock? Do you think that's more accurate to the genre?
Classic rock. I just call them
classic rock. But to me, a corporate rock band, first thing in my mind is someone like Bon Jovi.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't appreciate the sound. I mean, there's maybe one or two good songs, but
I'm not going to lie. I love all the cheesy goodness that is Bon Jovi. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that there's any substance behind a lot of, the songs. But man, I love singing it. I don't care. I love listening to it. It's just nostalgic and it's good, clean.
Living on a Prayer is fun.
It's fun. Thank you. And I don't care. I love it. And I'm here for it every day.
Runaway is better, but
Yeah. Well, see, there you go. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I like that. So I'm not going to pretend to be high and mighty with any of that. I love all the cheesiness.
I think our generation is not going to define classic rock as corporate rock because we're in what is music that is so corporatized and blended.
yes.
First of all, music doesn't
don't
even
even
have an identity anymore.
You don't even have to be, play instruments to have a band anymore.
Yeah.
Everything can be electronic.
Name a rock band who is not labeled as a pop band that came out in the last 5 years.
Well, there's a few.
I don't even know
Like I said,
Are they
Greta
not-
Van Fleet is considered rock.
But are they not,
they
like,
are
indie?
specifically derivative though of Zeppelin. They are
AC/DC
they are
and
almost. I'm not saying they're bad, but they are basically a tribute band.
no.
I don't believe that. No.
They're
I
close.
listen to a lot of
Now,
stuff. I love it.
You would say,
See, that makes
Mandy,
me. That's the thing that I hate about that is people who will complain there's no good music. Why don't we have music like this, and this? I want those bands back. And here comes this young band who took their inspiration from these bands we love, and then everybody wants to poo-poo on them. Oh no, you're no good. You're no good.
You know what it is?
Give me a break. Come on, they're great. They play their own
No, they are
instruments.
great.
They write their own songs. They're performing it. Give them credit.
Yeah,
I enjoy it.
100%. They're great. I actually like their music, and I downloaded the album. The thing is, like when we look back at like the classic rock, we realize that's all original.
Yeah.
It really
But here's
is
my
original
thing with
sounds.
that too. Here's my thing. Every day of the week, I can listen to Greta Van Fleet and Zeppelin and know the exact difference as soon as you hear the song.
Or The
if
Darkness.
you're not that good, the darkness,
The Darkness
is wonderful.
is another one.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you're not a real good heavy Zeppelin fan if you can't tell the difference between.
Yeah,
Greta
I
Van
agree.
Fleet.
I agree.
Come
most
on.
people are like listening
Come
to.
on. You're listening to those radio plays
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, nope, you're the exact same.
Well, music,
Nah, I can hear the difference.
like rock music and rock bands started kind of like dissipating in mid 2000s. Like we did have some around for
Yeah.
a bit.
Dirty Honey is a newer one that I like. Well, they probably aren't
Yeah,
newer, but they're not as wide mainstream yet, and they are a true rock band.
It's just hard to find any mainstream because even rock radio, rock talk radio stuff that disappeared. Everything it just left, and now we're just stuck with this crap.
yeah.
Lifeless corporate husk.
No, lifeless corporate radio,
There
lifeless
you go.
corporate pop.
Thank
lifeless
you. I love that.
corporate
Lifeless
everything.
corporate radio.
Lifeless corporate life in your
Lifeless
car.
streaming.
Well,
way to work.
it's all piped
Streaming,
in too.
yeah,
They're-
radio.
they're- I guess with the death of
Six
DJs,
So radio didn't
that
kill
helped
the
to promote that corporate feel
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now everything's
video
piped
didn't
in
kill the radio
to
star.
1,000 radio stations, and your local DJ has no control over what's
That's what I'm
being
saying.
played.
So
we all have
video
Ryan
didn't.
Seacrest.
Yeah, video didn't kill the radio star. Streaming and downloading killed the radio star. Is that what happened?
No, it was the companies that all
Piped
being
in
owned by the
AI
same.
music.
That's what they do.
They're all owned by the same corporation.
I'm convinced
Take
all
it over.
modern
Clear-
pop is
All
AI.
I think it is. Clear radio or whatever it is. Whatever that
Clear Channel.
corporation,
Clear
Clear
Channel.
Channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things like that. That's what ruined
And you know what? That's
Music.
probably why we have podcasting, because people are sick of this crap.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can have a place to vent and congregate and rail against
Yeah,
the
'cause-
man.
And on January 6th, we're going to go down to the radio station. And we're going to show them
Shut up!
peacefully. Peacefully.
No. Okay. Yeah, but seriously, I mean, I think we pretty much got it
Yeah.
with the corporate rock thing. So
So we've determined that all modern music is lifeless corporate rock. Classic rock actually isn't, unless you want it to be personally.
We
Yes.
determined we don't know anything.
It's
Yeah.
all
It's a feeling.
personal
Yes.
my
feeling.
feelings. You hurt my feelings. So I don't like you.
Imagine when all of us have like our emotions stripped and we're like living in virtual reality in a corner.
Can't
and,
wait.
And someone's having a conversation. Remember when music was really good in 2021?
You know what it would be?
No.
Remember music? Period.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that song was called "The Sound of Silence."
Oh, gosh.
Dude, there's this new ambient track out today. It
Yes.
operates at 440 megahertz.
Did you listen to the Wind today? Unimpressed.
The Wind is so corporate now.
Did you hear who bought Wind?
It's sold out.
Oh man, I was gonna buy that NFT.
No.
And that'll be just music. NFTs.
So we're gonna move
By
on.
the way, our NFT is for sale for $50 million if anyone
That's
wants
right. That's what we value it as the market
it.
demands.
Someone will pay it.
Exactly.
That's our market value as determined by us, because feelings are more important than facts.
Exactly.
The final conclusion on corporate rock.
Corporate rock is the boogeyman.
Lifeless, faceless. I heard this music and it made me want to vomit.
A man of your nightmares, and it's different per person.
Some bloopers and odd sound bits because these things get brought up. Don't ask me how.
And in my organic backyard,
I'm raising a bunch of kale.
We have vegan chickens.
I knew it.
oh, you owe me a brand new iPhone 13.
Do not get upgrades, Eric. You do not get upgrades.
This is.
That's Eric's anger management breathing technique.
Yes.
There's a toddler on me, and I just got peed on.
It's not me.
Sorry, I
Have
didn't
any
mean to
diapers,
interrupt.
dear?
Y'all being all erratic over here.